Adam, you had another question?
I do. Not so much a question, just more of an observation I've had as I've been watching more and more soccer throughout the different European leagues. And I wanted to just kind of get, I don't know how much you guys are watching, Andrew. I know you watched some of the Premier League games this morning. Connor, I don't know how many you watched, but how big of an impact, and obviously we don't watch these games live, we all see them through the TV. How much of an impact do you guys think the fans have had? Because just to the intensity of the game, I'm not even talking about like noise or atmosphere, because us getting it through the TV, we get the filtered fan noise, the artificial nonsense, which I hate. But I was watching it might have been the Arsenal game. Who played before them? The Leicester Watford game.
Leicester Watford, yeah.
So I was watching that, and I've seen a few other games that I've had this thought from, but it just doesn't seem to have that same intensity. And maybe that's just because the actual fan noise is just adding to it, but it seems like teams just aren't like it doesn't have the same feel as like a real Premier League game has, or a La Liga game or whatever. Like people are kind of like going into tackles like half effort. Like they're, they don't look as excited when they score a goal, whether that's because they can't really celebrate with their teammates the way they want to or whatever, but it's just kind of like, yay, we scored, like high five, and then they just go away. Like I haven't seen anyone actually do like a real celebration the entire time. So I just want to get you guys' thoughts on that.
End of the day, right, you got to just play the game and play it as best you can. But in terms of the way the sport is and the way that everybody reacts to it, right, you watch the game. A lot of people don't watch the game for the game, right? It takes a very select few people to watch the game to break down how they're playing, what they're doing. My biggest thing when I first started watching Bundesliga, you could hear everything they were saying, every single word. And you talk about how we're in America, you want everybody to grow the game and become so good. And then you filter all that out by putting fake crowd noise instead of teaching a young kid what you're supposed to be saying on the field, how you're supposed to be talking. So that bothers me. Not bothers, but right, like that, I don't like that, because I'm one of the guys who can sit down and say, man, I love this, because I can hear what they're saying. I can see what they're trying to do, and you can pick it apart. The majority of people here don't do that, which is why you need that filtered crowd noise. I think the fan atmosphere is important for us as we're watching it, less so for people, unless the game really matters, right? Leicester Watford doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, Leicester just need to get a few points so they can stay in Champions League spot. They're not winning the title. Watford might need to play a little bit harder so they can survive. But end of the day, right, there are games in there that don't matter. Everton, Liverpool, outside of being a derby, doesn't matter, right? And I think the biggest thing is that the only time the fans really push somebody to play better, play harder, tackle stronger, is when the game matters. So you could, that, to me, that's the only time that having those fans makes the game any better. But you're right? Chilwell scored an absolute screamer this morning, and it was like, oh, cool, it went in. Which takes away from our aspect, but doesn't change the game, right? He still ripped it. So, yeah, I see where you're going with that. I just think it's more, the fans are more for us watching it, not being there. And while teams will feed off of it, at this point in the league where the title's basically decided, if you're not in a relegation fight or a battle to finish in Europa, doesn't matter. So I don't know how much it'll affect most games.
Right. And I agree. Like I'm one of those people as well that it doesn't matter if I can understand what they're saying. Like obviously I don't speak German. I watch the Bundesliga games and hear the people communicating on the field and couldn't tell you what was going on. But I like and maybe that's because I coach and I've played this game for so long, but I like being able to hear that communication, whether I know actually what's being said or not. I don't like the filtered fan noise that's been coming through the TV. And I found out when I was watching the Barcelona game the other day that Ray Hudson, who was commentating, was not actually at the game. So he was watching a live stream from his house in Miami, and I guess he had a microphone and set up at home and would watch the live stream that was a few seconds delayed just because of some technical stuff, would commentate, and then we'd hear it through the TV, which, as I love Ray Hudson, he's one of my favorite people on this earth, but it was weird and not great.
We're in a tough spot,
Yeah.
and they're trying hard to get it across the line. I don't care for the stuff, but I understand why they have to, because if you're the casual fan and you're listening to just people talk on a field and kick a ball around, most people are not staying around to watch that. You need to be a special type of person. I'll pick Connor's brain on that. I don't know how he felt about that, because I know he doesn't. With as much respect as I can say, I know he doesn't look at the game the way we do.
I was actually gonna say that pretty much just from the perspective of someone that doesn't, I never played the game, so I don't know the game like you guys do. I don't care to listen to them shout about what they're doing. And I feel like that's probably often the sentiment with a lot of fans that are watching. Say majority probably haven't played or haven't played seriously enough to want to hear the tactics going on. I don't love the crowd noise. I think that they've kind of, from what I've watched, they kind of only throw it in when it's maybe like a good save or a goal. But usually when I'm listening to a game, I mean, the crowd's just belting it the entire game, like singing the entire time. Anybody makes like a good pass, they're like getting excited about it. And not having that part of the game definitely makes it harder to watch when I'm watching a team that's not my team. So like obviously Chelsea haven't played yet. Any games that I watch, it's kind of like I don't have as much of an interest in it just because one, it's not my team, and two, not being able to like hear the intensity of the fans just takes away some of it for me. And I don't know if MLS would have that same extent. I just don't know if the fans are at that level of like England level fans where they have these intense chants and they're really, really into it. And obviously there are some people here that are like that, but I just think in general, I don't think the fans are at that level yet. So I don't know how much artificial fan noise would change MLS necessarily. Whereas I feel like it takes away from the games in like England or Germany.
Yeah, I mean, most MLS teams are pretty used to having low attendance, especially recently.
Mm-hmm.